Today's Southern California is home to numerous gangs from different origins. Among them, a South Asian gang called the Asian Boys is one of the most feared due to their violent crimes. Currently, they boast several thousand members within the state and even more across other states, continuing to grow despite the efforts of the authorities. They've also appeared multiple times in the FBI's National Gang Threat Assessment, highlighting the serious threat they pose. But before becoming the massive gang they are today, the Asian Boys were once insignificant in the grand scheme of things. So, how did they rise to prominence and eventually dominate Southern California? Stick around to find out. Unlike most gangs with a clear history of their origins, the Asian Boys have a more complex backstory, which is intriguingly tied to a gang they are now rivals with. It all began in the 1980s when a small gang emerged in Los Angeles' Chinatown area. This gang, composed solely of Cambodian immigrants, stood out from the Chinese gangs at the time due to their unique style of dress. News soon spread among other gangs in the area that the members of this new gang called themselves the Oriental Lazy Boys. As expected, their emergence wasn't something the other gangs welcomed. There was already more than enough competition for turf in the area among existing gangs like the Wah Ching, Cool Boys, Black Dragons, and the Homeboys. Hence, more often than not, anywhere the Oriental Lazy Boy gang members went, they encountered rival gangs and trouble. In these instances, they were always thoroughly dealt with because their numbers were very small, due to an internal decision made by the creators to keep membership limited only to Cambodians. Although this rule was later changed far into the future, at the time, it remained an obstacle to the growth of the gang. This was because the number of Cambodians living in the area was small, so the gang was limited in the number of people they could possibly recruit. For a while, the Oriental Lazy Boys continued to be outnumbered and outgunned by the other gangs in the area. Eventually, some members of the group had enough and decided to take action. These members broke away to form a separate gang, which they called the Asian Boy Insane. The twist was that while this new gang remained loyal to the Oriental Lazy Boys, they abandoned the rule of limiting membership to Cambodians. As long as an individual was of Asian origin, they could join the group and participate in their activities. Soon, the Asian Boys Insane was made up of Cambodians, Laotians, Vietnamese, Chinese, and more. Because of this non-biased membership rule, the gang was able to grow quickly and attract many new members. The Asian Boys Insane, initially led by an individual named Piv Tang, would later rename themselves as the Asian Boys, abbreviated to ABZ or AB. Eventually, this gang set also became known as the Chinatown Asian Boys, referencing their origins in Chinatown. However, other gang members who relocated to different parts of Southern California and carried on the gang lifestyle chose to continue to use the original Asian Boys name. At the time, it wasn't surprising to see gang members leave the original birthplace of the gang. Some left in search of work, while others relocated because their parents had found new jobs. A few left to escape law enforcement, and others moved to live with extended family or friends. However, one thing was certain: leaving the area didn't mean leaving the gang life behind. As soon as they settled into their new locations, they quickly established new sets of gangs with like-minded individuals, continuing the cycle of growth and expansion. It was in this manner that the Asian Boys also became established in Long Beach, Van Nuys, and other Southern Californian regions. However, the original LA parent gang, the Oriental Lazy Boys, remained small due to the exclusive Cambodian membership rule they were still enforcing at the time. By the mid-1990s, the Asian Boys had grown significantly, boasting thousands of members across Southern California and other areas where the gang had spread. For some strange reason, which remains unclear, it was around this time that the gang became rivals with its founding parent, the Oriental Lazy Boys. The Oriental Lazy Boys, who had previously preferred to remain independent, began aligning themselves with African American blood gangs and started using the color red to identify themselves. In response, the Asian Boys allied with the Crips and adopted the color blue. It's interesting to note that these associations were made by the Asian Boys themselves, and were not formally recognized by the African American street gangs. It seemed as though the Oriental Lazy Boys and Asian Boys chose sides to enhance their reputations and to clearly display the deep hatred they had for each other. Regardless, these associations have remained to this day, and some Asian boys even now referring to themselves as Asian Boys Crips. Between the two, the Asian Boys remain the strongest, even more formidable than most of the gangs that also exist in Southern California. The key to how they've taken charge of the region lies in the level of their violence. Despite being relatively new to gang culture, the Asian Boys have become one of the most violent gangs criminal justice professionals have encountered throughout the country. Due to their large numbers, they do not hesitate to attack other gangs, making it easy for them to claim territories wherever they believe it's profitable. A common way they do this is by first identifying a place they intend to take over. Once this is done, they set up an ambush or a surprise attack for the rival gang that is in charge of that turf. This attack is usually carried out when the rival gang members are vulnerable, such as when they are leaving their headquarters, engaging in a routine activity, or meeting with other gang members. During the attack, they make sure to take out a large number of their rival gang members, especially anyone they can identify as a key leader in the group. This makes it harder for the rival gang to recover and regain the same strength they had before. Even though some of the defeated gang members might regroup and try to fight back, it's often seen as a risk worth taking to gain control of new territory. In the end, only a few gangs are able to stand up to these attacks. This is usually because they also have a large number of members who actively participate in turf wars and are prepared to defend their territory when needed. Over the years, the Asian Boys have developed different factions, even within Northern California. Unlike other gangs, the leadership of these sets of gangs is very fluid. As opportunities for criminal activity present themselves, whoever has the most information, an inside contact, or knows the target seems to assume the leadership role. The profit is then shared either on a pre-agreed formula, with more money usually given to the individual who came up with the plan. However, sometimes an Asian Boys faction may have an undisputed leader who everyone answers to. Regardless of the leadership style, the level of violence the Asian Boys are known for is maintained, although it is often worse when there is an actual leader controlling that faction of the gang. Despite this level of violence, evidence of the Asian Boys committing actual acts of violence isn't much, as the gang does their best to hide their tracks. Still, during instances when these crimes do appear in the news, they are often far more heinous than one might typically imagine. For instance, in 1995, 7 members of a faction of the gang engaged in a spate of violence, shooting and wounding strangers, conducting running gun battles on freeways, and staging a deadly ambush against a rival gang, all in a bid to assert their authority. Their actions led to 7 slayings and 18 attempted murders, a number that shocked the police, as it was rare for gangs to pull off such a level of violence within a short period. When they were eventually caught and questioned, police discovered that they showed no remorse for their actions and that many of them lived a double life. That same year, a group of Asian Boys gang members walked into a local cafe where they noticed graffiti from a rival gang on the walls. Without any clear evidence, they immediately assumed that the Asian youth present in the cafe were responsible for marking the territory. Angry at what they saw as a challenge to their power, the gang members quickly called for backup and told them to bring weapons. When the young Asian men eventually left the cafe and drove onto the freeway, the gang members, now armed and ready, followed them in 3 separate cars. At some point, they surrounded the 4 youths and opened fire. In the end, all 4 of the ambushed boys were shot and 3 of them died. In a different scenario, a leader of one of the factions of the Asian Boys gang, Marvin Mercado, was sentenced in 2011 to 8 consecutive life prison terms without the possibility of parole, plus 30 years, for his role in 8 Los Angeles area killings. In the same sentence, he was also ordered to serve 10 terms of 15 years to life behind bars, plus an additional 20 years for his convictions on 10 counts of attempted murder. Some of the people he had killed were rival gang members, while others were innocent bystanders who were caught in his gunfire during attacks against rival gang members. Additionally, some were killed when Marvin and his gang members were committing their illicit crimes. However, he initially escaped justice by fleeing to the Philippines to live under an assumed name, but was later arrested and brought back to stand trial due to intensive investigations. With the conviction of Mercado, the violent activities of most factions of the Asian Boys gang died down for a while due to fears of being arrested and convicted by the police. However, It was later discovered that the gang had learned to cover up their activities more effectively from the authorities. One of the incidents that fully exposed this was the arrest of 9 members and associates of the gang in 2023 who were part of a large drug distribution network that profited primarily from the sale of thousands of homemade counterfeit Adderall pills containing methamphetamine. The bust was made because they tried to distribute their significant supply of methamphetamine pills to an undercover officer on multiple occasions. Additionally, they'd also sold at least 15 firearms, including 5 machine gun conversion devices, an AR-type rifle, ghost guns, magazines, and hundreds of rounds of ammunition throughout the course of the undercover officer investigating them. Today, the Asian boys still very much exist, but they've taken even greater measures to cover their tracks. One way they've done this is by avoiding openly claiming membership or affiliation with the gang, a stark contrast to how they operated in the past. Many members also no longer dress in the gang's colours in order to avoid being directly connected to the group. In response to these tactics, the authorities have intensified their investigations and created specialized units specifically aimed at apprehending gang members affiliated with the Asian boys. While these efforts have had some success in weakening the gang, only time will tell if they ultimately lead to the complete eradication of the group. Thanks for watching all the way to the end. If you enjoyed what you saw and want to catch more content like this, please hit the subscribe button so you can stay updated on our latest uploads. And don't forget to click the like button to let us know you loved the video. Your feedback means a lot to us, and we can't wait to share more exciting content with you.